Wanted to do this video showing CNN and how they are favoring Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg. Again, these are the more corporate candidates. Buttigieg is the candidate that has received more money from billionaires than anyone else. Let's go ahead and watch this video.
Polling released today shows a resilient Joe Biden atop the Democratic pack nationally and suggests as the first votes get closer, the party is in a more moderate mood. Let's look at the numbers. First, just the top choice of Democrats. This is a national poll here. Vice President Biden at 28%, Bernie Sanders 17%, Senator Elizabeth Warren 14%. You see Mayor Buttigieg, Michael Bloomberg, Kamala Harris, Tom Steyer, Andrew Yang up here, 28, 17, 14. Pretty good, healthy lead for Joe Biden nationally. Now, some people have said, what if some of these other candidates, the lower candidates, drop out? What is the impact on the race there? Biden holds up if you just take the top four. We asked Democratic voters, what if the top four are still in the race? Joe Biden still with a double-digit lead over Senator Sanders, Senator Warren, and Mayor Buttigieg. So again, nationally, we'll see what Iowa, New Hampshire, and beyond say, but nationally, Joe Biden in good shape. One reason for that? The party is looking more closely at the moderates, moving maybe more toward the center. If you add up top choice support for Biden and Buttigieg, that's 39% of Democrats. 31% for the two progressive candidates there. So that's not a huge gap, but the party does seem to be thinking maybe we need to move toward the middle. Here's more evidence of that in our new poll. Here's the question. Which policy approach do you prefer? Again, these are Democrats, likely Democratic voters. Big change, even if a lower chance of that big change becoming law? 36% of Democrats say that's where they are in their mind. But look at this. 56% of Democrats say good chance of becoming law even if smaller change. That's Joe Biden's argument or Mayor Buttigieg's argument on, say, Obamacare, for example. Just fix it. Don't go to Medicare for all. Now, here's some hope for the other candidates. Only 42% of Democrats nationally say they've already made up their mind. 47%, nearly half, say they might change their mind. And 11% still say they have no first choice. So if you're Cory Booker and you're...
Okay, a few things from that. There are statistics that show that Medicare for All has crazy support. There are so many Americans, there's some polls showing up to 70% of Americans support Medicare for All. So to say that it has little chance of being passed, CNN is creating the narrative that they want to be true. As far as Obamacare, Obama had the numbers to get something like Medicare passed. They had the numbers in the House and Senate. They said we're going to work with the Republicans, and look at where we're at now. Republicans, to be honest, they're serving the billionaire class more than even corporate Dems are, and they are going to do whatever they can. They're going to fight any policy that is not in the best interest of billionaires. I find some of the statistics that CNN is using hard to believe because Bernie, Warren, Yang, these are candidates that have crazy support besides the donor class and the gays. Who really loves Pete Buttigieg? That's the question that I'm interested in knowing.
Even below those at 3%, you're thinking, I still have a chance.
There's a comfort with people like Joe Biden thinking that, hey, here's a guy that's vice president. But I really do believe that their support is soft. Most voters have not made up their mind. Let's see in about 60, 70 days when the actual voting starts. This always has shifted dramatically. Who's in the lead, who's not. And we believe that we have what it takes on the ground
to be clear. There often, not always, there often are late shifts. Often maybe Iowa votes for somebody and then the race gets all jumbled up. But if you look at this, the predicate of the Bloomberg campaign, the predicate of Deval Patrick's late entry into the race is that Joe Biden is going to collapse. If you look at these national numbers, there's a lot of chatter in Washington and among Democratic strategists. Does Joe Biden have what it takes? Can he hold up? The numbers keep saying that voters around the country, they're fine.
That's right. I mean, so far, that has been the prevailing theme, which is that a lot of Democrats within the party feel as though they're holding their breath, waiting for him to collapse, and it hasn't materialized in any of the polling. That being said, when you're on the ground, there are a lot of people, local people, whether it's from Georgia to Nevada to Iowa, who say that they think his support is soft. So if there's a 2008 situation where someone else wins Iowa or New Hampshire, does that put a big enough dent in his support that then you see the following states that come after that flip?
Right. It's a very important point to make that just like when we get to the general election, the Electoral College, national polls are helpful, but not always instructive. We go state by state. So yes, An upset in Iowa could change a lot of things, followed by New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina. Then you get the more crowded contest that Bloomberg's waiting for. But let's just look over time. First, we track out Joe Biden, where he has been, if you go all the way back to April, and you see his numbers come across there. So there's Joe Biden. Then you bring in Elizabeth Warren into that. Joe Biden has had a few ups and downs. Warren came up. Now she's sort of plateaued at the moment. And then you bring Senator Sanders into that. He's been essentially a straight line. He has a solid core group of supporters who are going nowhere. He has not been able to grow. Again, this is nationally. Some of the early states, his numbers are up a little bit higher. And then you bring in who I would say is the surprise candidate, or at least the most surprising of these four in the race, Mayor Buttigieg. And you see him, he's way down at the bottom, below 10%, and boom, this is our first poll that gets him up into double digits. So if you look at the candidates, the Biden line, it's like, okay, I'm in, I'm down, I'm up and down, but resilient. And the others just, he has, his argument constantly is, I'm winning.
He's winning nationally. What he needs is for Iowa and New Hampshire to be a split decision. The worst outcome for Biden is somebody else wins both Iowa and New Hampshire. And that's when real momentum kicks in. John Kerry did that in 2004, and the race was pretty much over. If there's a split decision, if it's Buttigieg in Iowa and Warren or Sanders in New Hampshire, then the sort of fight between South Carolina, Nevada, and Super Tuesday becomes a much more legit thing for Biden and a much stronger position, possibly for Bloomberg. But if somebody...
Okay, notice that they keep showing Mayor Pete as if he's this great candidate. What exactly does Mayor Pete represent? What does he stand for? Does he stand for big economic change? Now, understand that CNN, MSNBC, some of these companies, they're owned by individuals that have a lot of stock in pharmaceuticals and insurance companies. The owners of CNN and MSNBC do not want Medicare for All to be passed. Just look at the debate performance. Look at Joe Biden, the last couple debates. He's not doing well, but they keep propping him up as if he is this great candidate who people are just crazy about. They keep propping Mayor Pete up for the same reason.
Somebody else wins both Iowa and New Hampshire, and Biden is in deep third, fourth place, he's in a much worse position.
And so we're 9.5 weeks till the first votes. And so the candidates have to make very important decisions. That's closer than you think, especially with the holidays coming. Candidates have to make very important decisions. Where do they schedule themselves? Where do they spend their money, especially if resources are scarce? And you see stories like this. This one's in Politico. Elizabeth Warren loses her mojo in Iowa. You have to wonder whether she peaked too soon. This is Patty Judge, who's the co-chair of a group called Focus on Rural America. In the New York Times, when to peak. Amy Klobuchar has given it some thought. Our momentum says we're doing pretty darn well in Iowa. Pretty damn well, she says. I'm sorry, I want to quote her accurately. She'll at least be in the top 5. This is from her Iowa campaign chair. It is interesting to have these candidates now. Look, it's hard to run for president. We have fun sometimes at the candidate's expense. It is hard. It drains your life. It stresses your family. It stresses you personally. And they're at a phase now where this is about to matter.
This is about to matter, and I think one thing that everybody should pay attention to, particularly in Iowa, is operationally where people stand, right? Maybe Elizabeth Warren is plateauing, but I think everybody agrees that her team on the ground is as good as it gets, and that matters in a caucus state, without any question. But there's also another thing, and that's Pete Buttigieg's rise came because of his on-the-ground operation in Iowa, and also he carpet-bombed the state with ads. He had the money, he had the finances to do that. Other people may be in position to do that over the course of the next 9 weeks as well, and so it'll be interesting to see if that actually tangibly moves their numbers, or if this is the final four, and we see how these four fight it out over the course of the next 10, 15 weeks.
To that point, we just want to show you national numbers versus Iowa numbers in our latest polls. If you look at this, so far this has been a national race with very few exceptions. If you look down the numbers there, the candidates who are struggling, they're struggling nationally, are also struggling in Iowa. Amy Klobuchar would be the exception there, a 2%. Nationally, she's up to 6% in Iowa, and she thinks that she's the beginning of something. But that is the question. Will Iowa sort of shatter this race, or will it continue to be a national dynamic?
Well, Iowa's always been sort of the indicator, and that's why there's so much attention.
Real quick, I wanted to know, because they had Andrew Yang on that poll, showing him at 3%. In the debate, MSNBC gave Andrew Yang far less time than candidates that he was polling higher than, including Amy Klobuchar, Tom Steyer. They did not help Andrew Yang. Imagine if the media hyped Andrew Yang up even half as much as they hype up someone like Pete Buttigieg. If he was able to get his unique message out there that is founded in economics, and it's not just glittering generalities about uniting the country like Pete Buttigieg gives, I can assure you that Yang would be polling far higher.
On it, whether or not it's the game changer, obviously that remains to be seen. And so whether or not Pete Buttigieg, for example, will carry on and do as well as he will in Iowa, it's unlikely given how the polls are looking, but definitely some momentum comes out of the Iowa race.
And whether there actually is an opening for a Bloomberg, who says there will be, who says there will be waiting, we shall find out.